Bien, hola clase y bienvenidos. Today we are going to talk about el pretérito perfecto, which in English it's known as the present perfect. So let's talk about a little bit about how we form the present perfect. So first of all, we need to realize that the present perfect, el pretérito perfecto, is a compound tense. Es un tiempo verbal compuesto in which we have the verb haber, which is acting as an auxiliary verb, or an verbo auxiliary, which is going to help with the actual conjugation of the verb. And what we have, again, the verbo auxiliar, verbo haber, plus the participio pasado of the verb, which is that we're actually talking about or putting into action, which is a past participle in English. And remember that the past participle are those conjugations that end in ed in English, such as brushed or committed or studied. We also do have some irregulars, and we'll talk about those in Spanish. And some of the irregulars in English are eaten, done, slept, which are then conjugations that do not end in ed. They are irregular for that matter, and there are many more irregulars in English than there are in Spanish. So, el participio pasado, or the past participle, let's remember that for verbos regulares in Spanish ending in AR, the past participle ends in ado, and for verbos regulares that end in ER or IR, the participio pasado or the past participle ends in ido. And we'll see those in more detail in just a second. Now let's talk about the corresponding use in English of the preterito perfecto, the perfect present. It's the have done of something. So for example, if I say, he comido mucho hoy, I have eaten a lot today. Tú has dormido poco anoche. You have slept little last night. So then again, the corresponding use of it in English is the have done something, and there's your compound tense. Okay, verbo to have, haber in this case, plus the past participle. And let's look at the conjugations of el participio or el pretérito perfecto. And what we have is has, a, hemos, habéis, han. And habéis will be the only one that will carry an accent mark over the e. So, yo tú has, él o ella ha, o usted or it, nosotros o nosotras hemos, vosotros o vosotras habéis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes, or it plural, han. Now let's look at the function of the preterito perfecto. So really the main function of the preterito perfecto is really to express what has happened in the past. It's another way to speak in the past with a slight twist to it, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So here are some examples. Hemos ganado la competición. We have won the competition. He ido al centro. I've gone to the, it could be centro comercial, I've gone to the mall, or I've gone to the centro, meaning I've gone downtown. Ellos han sido los primeros. They have been the first ones. So really, again, it's just another way of expressing what has happened in the past. Here's a little twist to the pretérito perfecto, is that we use it to talk about past experiences which still bear relevance or that are connected in some way with the present. Okay? So somehow these experiences that have happened have some type of connection to our today, to our present. So, hoy el director ha confirmado que no vayamos a la reunión. So today, our director or president of the company has confirmed that we do not go to the reunion, to the meeting. Esta mañana hemos ido al parque. This morning we have gone to the park. So there are certain key words in here that connect what has happened in the past to the present. And these are in purple, so such as hoy or esta mañana. Okay? So here let's talk about some words that are used with the Preterito perfecto that show this connection of the past to the present. And so let's say that a good example to do this is that we use the Preterito perfecto with certain time markers within today, within hoy. And when we use these time markers, then we are giving ourselves this option of using the Preterito perfecto and taking what has happened in the past and make it relevant to today. So, for example, hoy, esta mañana, esta tarde, or esta noche. And we'll look at some examples in just a second. And we also use other time markers with the words such as este, esta, estos, or estas. So let's look at some ejemplos. Este mes he ido a San Francisco. This month I have gone to San Francisco. Esta semana hemos trabajado mucho. This week we've worked a lot. Este año he esquiado 2 veces en Tajo. Estos últimos días han sido difíciles para mí. Estas vacaciones han sido las mejores de mi vida. So here's what we can see is that these temporary markers of time, which are determined by these words, such as este, esta, or estos, or estas, they all indicate when we've done such actions, and these actions are connected to the present or to the now in some way. So, este mes he ido a San Francisco. Even though I did this sometime in the past of this month, it is relevant to today, to this present that I live in. Esta semana hemos trabajado mucho. Even though all this work that I did was this week, it has relevance to today, to the present that I live in, because I want to convey it that way. Let's also take a look at some examples not written on the screencast with hoy, esta mañana, esta tarde, and esta noche. And these are much more clear when we use the Preterito perfecto. So, hoy he ido con mi familia al parque. So even though this action was done earlier today, which technically is in the past, it has relevance to today, and today is the present. Okay, so here we have this perfect present, okay, or this Preterito perfecto, because it was done in the past, but it bears, okay, some relevance to the present. Esta mañana he desayunado huevos fritos con tocino y un vaso de zumo de naranja. Esta tarde he pasado tiempo con mis amigos. Y esta noche he visto una película. So remember that these time markers are going to determine this relationship, this connection between the past and the present. Okay. Let's also take a look at another function of the Preterito perfecto. And in this case, what we have is we talk about past actions in which we care not to inform when they happened. So basically what we do is that we use the Preterito perfecto without really any temporary markers or these temporary words that mark the time when they happened. And we use this to express an experience within our lives or within the lives of others. And they still pertain to our now. So let's say, por ejemplo, yo he visitado España muchas veces. So in this example, I'm not stating when within my life I have visited Spain. And the reason is because my life, if I take a look at my polls here, it hasn't ended yet. So therefore, the statement of the past bears relevance in the present. And as long as I don't give it a determined, marker within time, I use the Preterito perfecto. So, he visitado España muchas veces. And this leaves room for possible times in which I can, maybe will, visit Spain still. So, I have visited Spain many times. And could possibly visit it again tomorrow or in a week or in a month. Another example is, tú has comido paella numerosas veces. So then again, I'm stating the fact that you've eaten paella numerous times, and I'm not giving it a specific time marker of when you did it, and therefore, since your life hasn't ended yet, then I'm leaving the possibility for you to do it again, possibly tomorrow. And so we use the Preterito perfecto. Let's make a note here that we have some special spelling within the Preterito perfecto on some of these past participles. So when we have ER or IR verbs that end in either A, E, or O, the past participle must carry an accent on the I. Okay, so if we have caer, caído, acento en la I. If we have leer, leído, acento en la I. If we have oír, oído, acento on the I. Hoy he leído un libro fantástico. Okay. Esta mañana mi mamá se ha caído por las escaleras. So now let's take a look at these irregulars. So with irregulars, it's kind of one of those where you just have to memorize them. And these are the most common ones. If you want to look at any other ones, you can look those up either on the internet or any kind of grammatical textbook for that matter. So we have abrir es abierto, cubrir es cubierto, decir es dicho, descubrir es descubierto, escribir es escrito, hacer es hecho, morir es muerto, poner es puesto, resolver es resuelto, romper es roto, ver es visto, y volver es vuelto. And I think cubrir, it's to cover something, for those of us that may not know that one. And descubrir is to uncover something. Descubierto. And I think those are the only ones that we might be ambiguous about. And the last piece with the Preterito perfecto is to look at pronouns and the word no and the location of these two when using the Preterito perfecto. And basically they always precede the verb haber, the auxiliary verb. So meaning they go in front of el verbo haber, and haber can never be separated from its past participle by any word. So if we look at the ejemplos here, and we have todavía no lo has presentado. You still haven't presented it. So here we go. Here in that case we have no, and we have the pronoun lo. And as you can see, they go before the verbo haber. So you still have not presented it. And then número dos, me lo ha comprado mi madre por mi cumpleaños. My mom has purchased it for me for my birthday. And then again, what we have here is, me la ha comprado, whatever it might be, but it's feminine, whatever that object is. So again, the la is going to go in front of the verb haber. And for the last one, we have the negative word no. No hemos trabajado lo suficiente. Other words that you could use with Preterito perfecto would be aún, still, or todavía, which also means still, which will indicate the use of Preterito perfecto. The I have yet to do something, or I still haven't done something. And the other word that we might use with Preterito is ya, already. Ya lo he completado, I have already done it. and that's pretty much on those. Okay, so we have two more things here before we get down with el pretérito perfecto. There are two expressions that can be confusing from English to Spanish, which do not require the pretérito perfecto, but can be confusing for Spanish-speaking learners. And these two expressions are the following. Number one is, in order to express that you've been doing something for a period of time and that you're currently still doing that activity or that action, we have a specific expression that we use. We use el verbo hacer, conjugated in the third person, so hace, plus the period of time that you have been doing that activity for, plus que, plus the activity that you have been doing for that time, conjugated in the present tense. So, for example, I would say, hace 4 años que estudio el español, meaning I have been studying Spanish for 4 years. And here you're using the expression of I have, but then again, it's followed by have been studying, which is presente progresivo. And the been tells us that you've been doing it for a period of time. It's the amount of time since you started studying the Spanish or you started doing that activity. So the big difference here is that you are not, the past participle is not being used. And then also in English here what you have is studying, which is the presente progresivo, which is ando and yendo, and not ado or ido. And so if the big difference here is if I were to use the pretérito perfecto and say he estudiado el español por 4 años, what I'm saying is that I have studied Spanish for 4 years. So basically the way that is relevant to the present is that since I'm still alive, well, I've had 4 years of studying Spanish under my belt, meaning I've studied it for 4 years, and it leaves it open to the present for me to possibly continue to study. However, it does not convey what I really want to convey, which is I have been studying Spanish for 4 years, and I'm currently still studying Spanish. That is the big difference there. So, hace, followed by the period of time that you've been doing the activity, followed by que, followed by the activity itself, conjugated in the present. So that's expression number 1 to be aware of. And expression number 2 to be aware of is to express that something has just happened. And in this case, what we use is acabar de, followed by the infinitive of whatever the action is. So, acabo de recibir un texto de mi padre. I have just received a text from my dad. So I know I'm conveying a past action that's relative to the present, but in this case, the special piece of this expression is that it has just happened. And so we have a special expression, just like we do in English. And so again, is acabar de, and remember that acabar, it's a regular AR verb. So in the present is acabo, acabas, acaba, acabamos, acabáis, acaban. So, acabar de followed by the infinitive of what that action is that has just happened. So, acabo de explicar esta expresión. I have just explained this expression. So those are the two things to be aware of when you are thinking about using the pretérito perfecto and expressing yourself. And yeah, now just the cultural differences.
Okay, and lastly, what we have here is the cultural differences of when the pretérito perfecto is used. It's pretty straightforward. Las diferencias culturales del pretérito perfecto. And basically, the pretérito perfecto is much more common in Spain, except for the Canary Islands, than it is in Latin America. So, in Latin America, it is much more common to use just a regular pretérito, and in Spain, it's much more common to use a pretérito perfecto when I'm wanting to express myself once again in the past with this connection to the present. So on a daily basis, this is one is much more commonly used in Spain, talking about things that I did today, things that I did this morning, things that I did this afternoon, things that I did tonight, referring, or if I've yet gone to bed. We use the pretérito perfecto in Spain much more than we would in Latin America. So, an example that would be, esta mañana he desayunado cereal con leche y después he ido a la escuela. En la escuela he estudiado y he aprendido mucho. Whereas in Latin America, they may actually list these things in the pretérito. Esta mañana yo comí, yo desayuné, después yo fui a la escuela, en la escuela yo aprendí, etcétera, etcétera. Okay, amigos, that's pretty much it. Pretérito perfecto. One of the many, and I say many because we do have a few more compound tenses, or as they call them, perfect tenses. Adiós.